So let's take a look at number 5. So you can see this is a little different from what we've done on with problems 1 through 4. So we got a quadratic in the bottom. So really the first step you want to do is looking at your denominators. First you want to see, do you have a common denominator? If we don't, you want to go ahead and make sure you factor all your denominators before we try to find that least common denominator. So here there's nothing I can do. I got the x minus 1 over the x plus 3. But then when I look here, I got x squared minus 9. Hopefully you recognize that's the difference of squares. So this actually factors to x plus 3 times x minus 3. So that will help you find your least common denominator. Because now when I look, I got the x plus 3 here, and then here I got x plus 3 times an x minus 3. Well, I can multiply x plus 3 times x minus 3 here and then have that common denominator. So I don't have to multiply this times this, because if you did that, while it would work because it's a common denominator, it's going to make the problem much more difficult because it's not the least common denominator. So in this problem right here, my least common denominator is the x squared minus 9. Because again, it factors to x plus 3 times x minus 3. And I can take this, multiply it by x minus 3 to get that least common denominator. So let's go ahead and do that then. I'm going to write the least common denominator on this side. Now there's nothing I have to do over here. I already have the least common denominator, so I don't have to correct for it. So I'm just going to go ahead and just write that all the way out. Now up top here, I have an x minus 1. Now remember, what do I have to multiply the bottom by to get the common denominator? It's x minus 3, so I have to multiply the top by x minus 3 as well. So doing that to top and the bottom, I preserve the equality, and I have my least common denominator. So now we can go ahead and add our numerators and put that over our common denominator. So that's going to be x minus 1 times x minus 3 plus x over x plus 3 times x minus 3. And now we're going to need to do the distributive property or multiply here. And that I'm going to multiply, I got x times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is minus 3x. Negative 1 times x. Negative 1 times negative 3. Still have my plus x. All over my common denominator. And then let's go ahead and combine any like terms up in the top in the numerator. So I have the x squared, and then negative 3x minus x plus x just gives me minus 3x. And then I just have a plus 3 here. All over x plus 3 times x minus 3. And when I look at this here, there's nothing I can do in a numerator that's going to simplify. I can't factor this and look to cross these out. So this is it. This is your simplified answer for number 5. All right, so let's take a look at number 6 and scroll this back down. So with number 6, we have 7x minus 5, x squared minus 2x minus 24, and then 3 over x plus 4. So again, we're going to take a look at the denominator. We obviously clearly don't have a common denominator. So this is a quadratic. Can I factor it? And the answer is yes, I can factor that. So then this, in the bottom, it becomes x minus 6 times x plus 4 minus 3 over x plus 4. So that's convenient because I got x plus 4 here and I got x plus 4 here. So all I need to do is multiply this by an x minus 6 and I can get them to be the same, which means this is my least common denominator. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it again. And on this side, now I already have a 3 up top. So what do I have to multiply the top by? to keep it equal, because I multiplied the bottom by in x, I have to multiply the bottom by x minus 6, so I have to multiply the top by in x minus 6. So now I have my numerator corrected and I have my least common denominator. So I'm ready to combine my numerators, this minus this, over my common denominator. So I have 7x minus 5 minus 3 times x minus 6 over x minus 6 times x plus 4. And now I'm going to go ahead and do distributive property. So I have my 7x minus 5, and then negative 3 times x is minus 3x. Negative 3 times negative 6 is plus 18, all over common denominator. And then I'm going to go ahead and combine those like terms. So I have 7x minus 3x is 4x. And then negative 5 plus 18 is plus 13 over my common denominator. And when I look, there's nothing else I can do here to simplify. So this is my final answer. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at number 7. All right, so looking at number 7, we got a whole lot going on here. If you look at the denominators, they're not common denominator. We don't have that. So we need to go ahead and figure out how we're going to get that least common denominator. Well, I'm going to need to factor this, and hopefully that'll make things clear when I do that. So when I factor the bottom here, what I can do is take out an x squared, just a common factor of x squared. So here I have my top 5x plus 2. I could take out an x squared, and that leaves me with 4x minus 1. Now here in the bottom, first I can take out an x, and then after I take out an x, it does factor more, and it becomes x times 4x minus 1 times 2x plus 3. Again, if you have any questions on factoring, just go ahead and take a look at my videos on factoring. I don't have the time in this video to go through and show all the steps for factoring this. So now here, let's look to see how this helps us and if we can get that common denominator. So both of these have a 4x minus 1. This has an x squared, and this has just an x. So if I multiply this times an x, I can get an x squared. That's good. If I multiply this times a 2x plus 3, then I'll have the entire thing. So basically my least common denominator, gotta have the x squared, and I can fix that by multiplying this by x. So x squared, gotta have the 4x minus 1, and then I need to have the 2x plus 3. So x squared times 4x minus 1 times 2x plus 3 is going to be my least common denominator. Now, if you went ahead and you multiplied this times this to get your common denominator, that problem is going to be a mess. Very, very difficult to do if you don't actually factor it and try to get the least common denominator for this. So now I have up top the 5x plus 2, and here the 3x plus 7. So let's go ahead and correct for our numerators. So here I have the x squared and the x minus 4, so I have to multiply it by the 2x plus 3. So that's what I needed to do to get that least common denominator and keep it equal. And then here I have the 2x plus 3, I have the 4x minus 1, I have an x, but I need to get an x squared. So that means I need to multiply this by x. I have to put it over on this side so just one of these. So I'm not going to highlight the 2, I'm just going to put the x there. So now we can go ahead, we have our common denominator, we can write this as one fraction, so combine, subtract the numerators over the least common denominator. So I have 5x plus 2 times 2x plus 3 minus, now I'm going to put that x in the front so it looks more like the way you normally see a distributive property, over the least common denominator, just like that. So now we have a lot of simplifying to do here. So I have to multiply this and then distribute this. So 5x times 2x is 10x squared. 5x times 3 is 15x. 2 times 2x. And then 2 times 3. Now I have negative x times 3x is minus 3x squared. Negative x times 7 minus 7x all over the least common denominator. And then we still want to go ahead and simplify the numerator for like terms. So I got 10x squared and a minus 3x squared. So that's 7x squared. And you can go ahead and cross them out as you're going through, especially if you have a lot of terms. Then I have a 15x plus 4x minus 7x. That's going to be plus 12x. So that's gone. And then I just have the plus 6 here over my denominator. And then again, you will look to the numerator to see if there was anything that you could do to factor and it would simplify and cross out and reduce, and there is nothing. This is it right here, which is your simplified answer. And we are finished with that. So hopefully this will help you with your adding and subtracting the rational expressions. And we will move on in the next video. We're going to solve rational equations. Take care.